live. All right. Okay. So let's try this again. Good morning, Texas. We are 352 days away from our Texas size blue wave. And what? Oh, hi, Kat. Yeah, we figured it out. Yay.
Yeah, we're here now.
Um, this is Cameron Rolwitz. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes. Oh, and we are, so what I'm trying to do, what I'm hoping to do, and this is the first one, is each week, like, talk to different people who are running for either a state or like a national level, but representing Texas, so that we can flip all of these seats. And also, like, I feel like progressives is where we need to be looking. So I feel like we need to be going further left and not further to the center, which is what I think the Democrat Party has kind of been doing. And then that's not always, like Kamala Harris going with Liz Cheney. Like, maybe that wasn't the best course of action. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling now. But Cameron, tell us a little bit about like what office you're running for, district, and on all of those things.
Yeah. So I am running for State Senate District 11. That seat is currently held by Mays Middleton, who is running for Attorney General currently. That is a district that covers all or most of Brazoria County, all of Galveston County, and a little bit of Harris County. So it's basically all of southeast Houston, all the way down to Galveston Island. So it's a very, very
Oh,
large
yeah.
district.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'm
uh,
about an hour away from there in the Beaumont area, but I'm familiar with that area. My kids go to
okay,
field trips and NASA and all
yeah.
that.
Somehow you and I are in the same congressional district now.
Okay, that so when they redid all that,
When
now
they
we're
redid all of that. Yeah.
like,
So the
how does that make sense?
right, so the I my district was the one that was one of the ones that got redistricted. They took CD 14, which takes like a little piece of Southwest Houston and then goes all the way over to Orange County, Beaumont, all the way to the East Texas border. It's just this weird thin sliver. So that's Randy Weber's current seat.
Yeah, okay, Randy Weber. Okay, so I knew he represented me, but I wasn't familiar with how they redrew everything because admittedly, gerrymandering, while I understand the basics of it, it's something that I need to like deep dive and learn more about because I'm not like well versed in it. But from just like right off the bat, from what you're saying about how it includes uh, Beaumont and Orange. So Orange County is very, very red, and Jefferson County is red-ish. Like Beaumont is kind of blue, but like the others, like where I live, Groves, Port Neches,
Mm.
Nederland, like all of those are very red. So it sounds like they wanted to bring more red into the Galveston area because I imagine Galveston's kind of bluish, right?
Yes, there's been some gerrymandering within Galveston as a direct result of Mays Middleton, but from the
Mm.
state level, there hasn't been a whole lot. But Galveston got carved up. Galveston and
Yeah.
Brazoria County got carved up real hard. I have three different congressmen across just my one district
Oh my
across the
gosh.
state level. So
Yeah.
uh, Galveston is very blue, yes, but there's been pieces carved out to try and make it less blue after
Yeah.
2008, 2010, around that. So, um,
Republicans hate Galveston. Yeah. Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. And I was, yeah, reading Kat's comment. Yeah, so that it kind of like when I see it like that, like when it's explained that way, it makes I mean, it doesn't make sense, but I see what they're doing. It's pretty
you
clear
see
what they're
why they
doing.
did it. I don't like it. It's not ethical or fair, but they did it. But I
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
the reasoning behind it. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Um, so you're okay, so Randy Weber seat, so that I know that name because he represents me. So, and then didn't you say that there are other Democrats that you're primarying against?
Yes,
Um,
yes. So in my race for District 11, there I have one primary opponent, Shannon Dicely, who is running. She's from the Friendswood Galveston area. So that's the current opponent that I have. From the
okay.
Republican side, it looks like they're all lining up to back Dennis Paul as
Mhm.
the presumptive Republican nominee. So
So
far,
they
it looks like it's just the three of us for right now.
So they don't the Republicans, are they saying they don't want the incumbent Randy Weber because is he
Oh
not
no, I'm
MAGA
sorry.
enough or
I'm sorry. I was talking about the state level position, the state
Oh,
senate
state level.
position.
Okay.
Yeah, so at the state level, there wasn't any with the gerrymandering. All they did was touch the congressional districts. They did not touch states or local level districts at
Mhm.
all. So in that race, I have my primary opponent, Shannon, and then Dennis Paul is a former or is a state house representative. Mays Middleton is the current sitting senator, but he is now running for attorney general. So
Okay.
it is an open seat in the district right now.
Gotcha. Okay, okay. That's something that I've been trying to, like, make sure, like, I make clear, like, in my videos if we're talking about, like, state level or because Texas is such a big state, so I feel like people get confused as opposed if we were, like, a small state, like Rhode Island, and we were talking about,
Oh yeah, yeah.
so
Especially with the Senate districts being as big as they are. I mean, my districts, because there's 32 million people in Texas,
Mhm.
there's 31 state senators. So my district, population wise, is bigger than some congressional districts,
Yeah.
especially even in the state of Texas. So these are, when I'm going out and getting resources from campaign finances, they're like, "Oh, you're in Texas? Oh, just state level?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And they're like, "How many people in the district?" I'm like, "Oh, a little over a million." And they're like, "Oh." So we have to give
Right,
you the most expensive option to get that information all the way through. So
right.
it is like running a congressional race, but just at the state level.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. And that's I think that's one reason why I really wanted to turn my eyes on Texas. I've been spending, well, the past 10 years, I feel like, because you think about it, it really has been 10 years since Trumpism started,
Mhm.
like a whole decade of our lives. But like just I'm trying to like do what I can. And then it just kind of dawned on me that like so Texas I mean, the Republicans federally love Texas because, like, all those shiny electoral points. So if we flip Texas, we change the game for the whole nation. And so
Right.
it's not just about changing our state; it's connected. So I think
Mm,
that's why I think that it's so important to focus on Texas, and it's more doable than trying to like play whack a mole with all of like Donald Trump's. Like, what am I gonna talk about today? With
Yeah, yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, and even with the state senate, right? I mean, we only need 5 seats to flip it. If
yeah,
Taylor Remmett up in Tarrant County gets his seat in the runoff, that's 4, right? And then we can flip the state senate, right? And that's a massive check on the governor's power, right? Say if
yeah,
God forbid Abbott gets reelected, right?
mhm,
We would become one of the biggest checks on his power since he's appointing everybody, but we have to approve it. So if you want to
yes,
make sure that he's appointing, especially with Proposition 12, the Judicial Conduct Review Board changes,
mhm,
Greg Abbott now gets to appoint 7 individuals to a 13-seat board. No experience required, and the only other requirement is that the Senate approves the appointment.
wow.
So
That's when did that go into effect? Is that
that was the amendment we just passed.
we just passed, yeah, because everybody just clicked yes, and I know it's so crazy that because some of the things that went yes, Republicans didn't even want, and, like, we're both and so it's like everybody was just
It
hitting
was very
yes.
confusing. It was a
Yeah.
very confusing time. The wording of the bills was very confusing. I mean, I went and read through all of them just to try and make sure I understood. And
Mhm.
even then, they're still confusing, right? Like there's language in some of the recent versions that say that our property, like all the tax exemptions we passed, expire on January 1st, 2027. I went and finally got my state house representative to respond
Yeah,
to me. Uh,
finally.
and he basically was like, no, that's just transitionary language. So in my mind, I'm like, we have language in the bills that we haven't solidified yet, but we've
Mhm.
voted on them already. So the more you peel back the layers of the Texas state government, the more confusing, the more obfuscated, and the more difficult it is to understand just what exactly our government is doing.
Which is
Other
by
than
design probably,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. It is absolutely by design, right? So even
Yes.
especially when you look at like trying to find data, right? As a data analyst, the first thing I did when trying to build up my platform was, all right, let me go to the state, let me go to comptroller, let me get all the statewide. That doesn't exist. It's
Yeah.
all at the county level. It's all decentralized
Oh
by
my gosh.
design. Um,
Yeah. And I feel like the reason why they do the constitutional amendments is because they're harder to overturn than and they know that people I mean, the language I think is written on like a college level and most people read it about like the average person reads it about a 6th grade level. And like I have a master's degree in English and it is hard. Like you said, I'm having to like, really dig into it. And then you have to go out and educate people who are just who don't have a master's degree in a language based. Like, oh, Kat says you're a I can't say that word. I'm sorry. There's some words I can't pronounce.
Statistician.
But go ahead and take that question. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So well, it was my day job. I got notified last week I'm getting laid off. So, um,
oh no.
that was my day job was essentially what Doge was supposed to be for an internal company. So I was created. There was a special team that was created at the company that I worked for, where the intent was we would go through and essentially audit all of the systems that we had, all the money that we were spending on these processes. Where were the main pain points? Where was the waste? And with the understood goal that we want to do this by laying off as few people as possible, because we felt that if we removed a lot of the administrative burden and waste that people were dealing with in their day-to-day jobs, then they could be freed up to do the job we hired them to do and actually
Yeah.
work on and improve and bring in new ideas and do what we hired them to do.
Yeah.
And so that worked pretty well. Unfortunately, the company decided they were going in a different direction.
Uh,
So
as they do.
uh,
Yeah.
it's only
But that's
7 years.
only, yeah. Oh my gosh. But so is this kind of our campaigning? You get to kind of focus all your energy on campaigning?
Yeah. So for now, it's a 30-day working notice. So I do have time to try and find something internally if I want
Mhm.
to. But I'm just keeping the options open because, now my household has no income. My wife
Sure.
was a teacher, and she was fired shortly after Charlie Kirk. And
Oh
we've
my
been
gosh.
struggling with all of that. And then this came last week. So
Yeah.
it's been, it's
So
been a lot.
that's been happening so much. People like, okay, so do you want to tell, is that because related to, I'm also an educator in Texas, but currently I'm an independent educator. So I get to kind of say what I want because I work for myself. Um,
Yep.
and so, but I have worked in Texas public schools for a long time. And like, it was the beginning days of the Trump era, like getting hand slapped for talking about feminism and reading Jane Eyre. Like, how do you teach feminism how do you teach Jane Eyre without talking about feminism? You can't.
Well, if you go to
But
A&M, you don't.
yeah, yeah, they just decided that you can't I guess A&M is an elementary school now. Um, but, do you wanna tell us about, like, that what happened with
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So that was, I mean, it's part of what spurred me into deciding to run. My wife and I actually had a very long argument of who's going to run uh,
I
after
love
all
that.
of that. But she wanted to spend some more time with our 10-month-old son, and especially with all the craziness that happened with her trying to take maternity leave,
Oh, yeah,
where
which Texas has none of.
she
Like
basically did not get any maternity leave,
mm,
and so she was like, "Well, I'll just take this break, go finish." She didn't teach at a public school. She taught at a federal contractor that teaches English to refugees and asylum seekers as part of
mhm,
maintaining their requirements to have that status. Um, and essentially, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and she posted on her private story, a private Instagram, that basically saying like, this is bad, but this is what got y'all to say something, not the genocide happening in Gaza, basically.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
which
so
is that's not mocking anyone's death,
not
that
mocking
is
anybody. Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
so somebody took a screenshot of that. So it's someone we know because again, it's a private account with approved followers and all of that. Took a
yeah,
screenshot, emailed her former employer, and said, "Is this someone that you want working at your company?" And 2 days later, they fired her for the cited reason of violating their policy on spreading hate speech and inciting violence online, which
inciting violence. Oh,
is not in their employee handbook or code of conduct. So
wow.
we actually filed the lawsuit last week for wrongful termination,
Oh, good,
because she was
good.
also in the middle of trying to figure out how to take her FMLA maternity leave, even though it was going to be unpaid, but she just wanted at least more time with the baby and everything. So
Yeah,
that's the way that we're approaching it. So that was kind of I was already at the point of, all right, we've already been impacted once because in February with the federal funding freeze, my wife was put on furlough. So
oh oh my god,
it's,
because she was
it
paid by
wasn't,
the yeah.
she was paid by the federal government. Yeah. And
So
so,
and that's probably why they came down hard because JD Vance was coming up and saying, docs
oh, I
people." Like,
absolutely believe they were just scared that either they would have their funding pulled again or that they would, you know, be publicly under the radar of the State Department again.
Yeah.
And so they just took the preemptive decision to fire her. And all of her coworkers, have been in line with, that's insane. I posted worse. Why wasn't I fired? They wrote an
Yeah.
open letter to the board, all of this stuff. So they've been really supporting her in that, you know, we love the company and what it does, but if this is what leadership is going to do with someone who is actually trying to make a difference in our students' lives, then we'll help you tear it down, essentially. So
Yeah.
um, it's been nice to see the support. It's been really helpful. But that was kind of the
Well,
next
there's
straw of,
McCarthyism.
yeah, absolutely. And that's ironically, I was talking to my grandma about it, and she's Republican. Lives in Georgia, but not
Mhm.
Trump Republican. She has always hated
Right.
Trump. Uh,
There's a
um,
difference between, yeah. I always tell people,
and
I don't care if you're Republican. I care if you're MAGA. Like that. Yeah.
yeah, and so she was like, well, that just sounds to me like when I was growing up with the communism. And I was like, there's no communism here. There has never been communism here. It's not communism. It is more red state, more red scare stuff.
Yeah.
So, and Kat, I want to clarify, I am not running for the US Senate. I'm not old enough for that. I am running for state Senate, which I am barely old enough to do. The requirement is to be 26 and I'm 26. So,
Oh,
uh,
perfect. I mean, yeah, there you go. I
which,
mean, if we have people
you
that
know,
shouldn't be too old. So,
yeah, which will be the fun and sad part is that if elected, I would beat Tallarico being the youngest person elected to the state legislature by about 2 years.
oh,
So,
I
and
think he'll be okay with that.
I think he'll be okay with it as long as we can shake each other's hands and just say senator to each other. I think that'll be a good day.
Yeah,
Um,
'Cause, yeah, like you said, we need 5 Senate seats to flip the state or flip the Senate blue, and the Senate bill is what is with the 10 Commandments with Senate Bill 10.
mhm.
Um, so
And that was
the
Mays Middleton's
pet
brainchild,
project.
essentially. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
his. He was one of the sponsors. It's actually why I'm going down to Galveston ISD later this week to their school board meeting because they
Mhm.
voted 4-3 to not put up the Ten Commandment posters that Mays Middleton donated to the district.
And
And
now
so
Ken
now,
Paxton.
and now Ken Paxton's trying to sue. Yeah. So they know
Yeah,
it's
I made a video
unconstitutional.
about I mean, like, okay, and why do you need the 10 Commandments up when he has cheated on his wife? Like,
Well,
what
and
do
the
you
other
want?
thing
Like,
too is that this is them thinking they're being clever in circumventing free speech and separation of church and state laws, and that they wrote the law to where they're only required to put up the posters if someone donates them. So that's them trying to say, well, this is now somebody in the community's free speech, not the
um,
state deciding on free speech, which is how they're trying to circumvent the copious amounts of other Ten Commandments laws that have been struck down as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. It's not going to work. It's not going to go through. But here they are wasting our tax dollars, suing our own school districts over it.
yeah, and imagine if they put and this is actually a perfect segue to something I wanted to ask you about, but imagine if they put that much effort into, like, things that actually help Texans, like infrastructure, because I was reading on your website how, you wanted to, make, like, a, high-speed rail, and it reminded me of whenever I was in, Japan. I did Japan, in 2 years in grad school, and, like, um I was in Hiroshima, Kyoto, Tokyo, Osaka, and I went to all those places on, like, the train and it was like, Japan's a smaller country than I think Texas is
Oh,
not a
yeah, yeah,
country, but,
yeah.
Japan's smaller than Texas, so why do we not have similar infrastructure? So do you want and but you go ahead and talk, but I'm gonna relocate to where my charger is.
Sure,
So
sure.
but yeah, go ahead and do
Yeah,
and
so
explain that.
so the main thing with high speed rail, right, is the state already has the most track lines per mile than any other states in the country, right? So that was part of why after the Civil War, our reconstruction didn't take as long as other southern states, was because we still had the rail line to be able to efficiently move things around. So now that we've had, 30 years of Republican rule in the state and we're trying to fix a lot of the damage that has occurred and really need to rebuild the state back up to what it was, the best way that I know how to do that is through high speed rail. Um, and in doing that, you can connect. We've already seen even the Texas Department of Transportation is fully behind me, and we need more public transportation. They just released a report saying that by 2050, we need to diversify our public transit systems significantly because just one more lane, bro, really isn't working anymore. It hasn't been
Oh
for a
yeah.
while. And so
Anybody's ever
we
driven
already
to
have,
Houston? Let's
oh, terrible. Yeah. And then we already have the corridor between Houston and Dallas ready to go. It's just the company needs more funds to actually build the rail line. Travis County just released an announcement that they're also doing a feasibility study of building a high-speed rail line between San Antonio and Austin. That's already like three of our major cities in the state of Texas. Look at College Station. College Station as a city only exists because of the rail lines. And
Oh
now it's a
really? I didn't
threat.
know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's why it's called College Station because it was A&M College and it was their station.
A
So
station. Okay, literally a station.
literally a train station. Yeah. Yeah.
I
And so
love this
that's how
Texas
A&M
history I'm
exists.
learning.
Yeah. So rail has been a integral part of just building out the state, especially with how big we are, right? Is getting resources across our state efficiently is a pain. And there's not a lot of good ways to do it. And right now, our best way of doing it is either by air or by trucks. But even then, our highway infrastructure is crumbling because there are so
Mhm.
many people on the roads and we can't fix it faster than it's being broken. So
Yeah,
the best way to do that is just get people off the roads. And if we're connecting high speed rail, we can do a station every 40 or 50 miles. That'll bring in tourism and tax dollars to these local rural cities. And
yeah,
for those who live in the city, who don't necessarily want to stay living in the city, but didn't have any other option to get into the city quickly and cheaply, now they can move out to these more rural areas. That brings out tax dollars to these small rural towns who have been struggling. It brings tourism dollars to them as well, so that they have the sales tax floating around. And that lets that little rural town go back to Greg Abbott and the state legislature and say, hey, you can't cut the funding to my hospital out here. We're growing. We need the funds. It'll start
oh,
distributing things a little bit further around, right?
so
And
this
there's
is
a
an
couple of
interconnected issue, really.
interconnected issues. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And there's other things that we can do at the same time in terms of efficiency, right? We've been promised high speed internet all around Texas, what, three times in the last 30 years?
yeah, yeah,
You can run that while you're running the high speed rail lines, just run it underneath.
yeah,
And since that's now an increased load on the electrical grid, replace and upgrade the electrical infrastructure along the rail corridors. And then you're now increasing that to be ready for the transitions to higher battery storage, 100% renewable energy, all of those things all at once. That lets me pull from three different budgets to do
mhm,
one thing. And then I don't have to spend 20 years doing it because it's all happening at the same time. And a well
yeah.
organized and well thought out project can do that very easily.
And, well, I mean, we really just need to invest in our state and spend less time investing, in our state and like you said, tourism, these rural areas, instead of just this nonsense, like focusing on like political just performances, like Ten Commandments. That's just a political performance to show off to Trump, or what they just did with Texas A&M, yeah, it's interesting you said the economy it would improve in some of those areas. You mentioned College Station. Texas A&M is going to become a joke to the rest of the world under this, oh, you can't talk about race or gender. And
Mhm.
so that's going to hurt the economy of College Station, Bryan, and all those areas that have an A&M
Yep.
brand. So,
Yep. And A&M
but
has a sweetheart deal with the city of College Station. They pay $0 in tax or for most of their infrastructure.
yeah,
So they're
wow.
basically just going to turn into a leech on the city if they're not careful. Yeah.
Yeah. And also like I was reading that we were like behind the rest of the world in this type of infrastructure. I used to take my high school students abroad through a company called EF Tours where we
Hmm.
went to countries in Europe like as an educational trip. Um and they yeah, I remember taking a train from Paris to Amsterdam, went through Brussels, like, just country to country. Like why do we not
Oh,
have that?
I was going to an APA conference last April to do a presentation on my thesis, and I landed in New Jersey. I bought a train ticket for $10. I sat on the train for an hour, and then I took a free bus the rest of the way up to Princeton, and it was amazing. Like I did not touch a
Yeah,
car the entire time. Like I didn't need to. It was rail line. It wasn't high speed rail, but it was still rail line. I got to sit, work on the
yeah,
rest of my project while we were going through until we got out to the suburbs of New Jersey. And then it was just a free bus that I just hopped on right at the train station. I didn't even have to wait. And then we were gone. And that's the same way I came back.
yeah.
And but to some of the other points that you alluded to, right? It's especially with high speed rail, right? We pay, if I remember correctly, and I need to double check this, Greg Abbott approved a 10-year plan giving $15 billion, not in highway construction or not in highway maintenance or reconstruction, but just in highway construction.
Wow.
The cost to run the high speed rail line, just build it between Houston and Dallas, is $30 billion.
Okay, so so it's saving money. Yeah.
It's saving money. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's saving
Sorry,
us
my
so much money.
brain with math,
Yes.
with numbers. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So essentially, Greg Abbott approved $150 billion over 10 years to build out
Wow.
highway stuff. If we just took half of that and partnered with, say, Amtrak or or Texas High Speed Rail, who's already been doing the legwork without any help from the government, which is why they keep running out of money because they're having to buy all these properties, do all the surveys, do all of this stuff. They keep running out of money.
Yeah.
Um, if the state government helped even a little, we
Mhm.
could have had high speed rail, 5 years ago,
Yeah.
easily.
And And I feel like
Easily.
under Ann Richards, if she were still alive, we would
Well,
um,
look at what happened with Bush right after her, right? So
mhm,
in 1993, this is one of the laws I want to repeal from the education side of my platform. In
mhm.
1993, there was the law passed that barred teachers from joining a union that claimed the right to strike or collectively bargain. That is still on the books. That is why there is not a true teachers union in the state of Texas,
Yeah, you have to
because
pay
we're not allowed
dues
to
to
have one,
these, yeah,
right?
these private organizations.
And
They don't really do anything. They
and
don't
they
do
don't do
much.
anything,
Yeah,
right? Because they
yeah,
can't. They don't have any teeth because of that law. But it's just a law. I can repeal that very quickly if I have the support, right? So
yeah,
that's part of what my campaign is also looking at as here's the specific things that we can repeal or enact, and this is where the money's coming from and how we're going to pay for these things. And I need to be using my campaign not only to get me into office, but to train up the social or the First Amendment rights that y'all have that I'm
mhm,
trying to get back. Right. So if I'm saying, hey, I just got the law repealed that lets you strike. And, now I'm trying to raise the state multiplier for the teacher retirement fund so that teachers who are past retirement age can actually retire, right? Making room
yeah,
for all the kids in college right now who are graduating with these teaching degrees, and there's not a whole lot for them, right? So in
yeah,
doing so, um, um, then I need to come back to the district and go to the unions that have just been
mhm,
formed and say, all right, remember all that time we spent learning what our rights were and how to exercise those rights along the campaign trail? Now I need you to strike. I need you to give me the political leverage in the state government to get these laws passed for you, because the Republicans will be fighting me, kicking and screaming the entire way. And the only way that we're going to get things done in Texas is if we go back to our strong union roots like we had decades ago. We need to start
yeah,
rebuilding that, because we've seen what happens when they get weakened and then Republicans have control for 30 years.
yeah.
The
And
state
they're tying us
economy
up.
is on
Like
the
you,
well, and the state economy is on the brink of collapse. We've cut
yeah,
off every revenue stream other than property taxes and sales tax effectively, which property taxes are skyrocketing because that's the only way that we pay for schools in the state. And so now people are going, I can't afford the property tax. I got to move out. Well, that impacts our sales tax. So the only
yeah,
two revenue streams that we have are dependent on people moving to the state, staying in the state, and spending money in the state. And we are doing everything we can to actively push people out of the state. Tell me how that makes sense. From a
yeah.
fiscal responsibility
What was
standpoint,
it? Greg Abbott said 100% tariff if you come from New York.
he is also running on abolishing property taxes,
Yeah,
which is
like
the only way we fund schools. It's clear and present that he wants to abolish property taxes after getting the voucher program created to force people to go to private schools as best as they can, even if they can't afford it, which will
mhm,
require amending the Constitution to remove the requirement that schools are funded by public or by
which we've
property
seen is really
taxes.
easy to do because they just put it
Right.
on the ballot and people just, yeah,
But
yeah.
what we've also seen is really easy to do is create a permanent fund. We just created a permanent funding fund for trade schools in the state of Texas.
As
Why
part
can
of
we
one of
not do
those.
the same? Why can we not do the same thing for schools? Decouple school funding from property taxes. That lets the
Mhm,
local counties drop their property tax rate because they're not trying to compensate for school funding.
mhm,
Create a permanent fund for public schools in Texas that comes from the state budget and redistribute that across the state equitably for rural schools, suburban schools, urban schools, all of that. then our tax rate, we can finally get a break, because the other reason why our tax rates are so high and so distributed is that most of our businesses, excluding small businesses pay all the taxes from the
Oh,
ones that
yeah.
I've talked to. It's the big businesses that are able to afford the lawyers, find the abatements, and make to where they're either paying $0 in taxes or we're paying them a tax return, which
Yeah.
makes no sense, right? When you look at the state budget, mega corporations and billionaires contribute about 9% of the $330 billion budget that we have.
9%.
9%. That's it.
That's not enough.
No.
No.
Do you know what our franchise tax rate, which is our version of a corporate tax rate, is?
What's that?
Less than 1%.
Wow.
And that is only up after $2.47 million in revenue. So the small businesses that I own, we technically don't have to pay that franchise tax rate because we don't have near that amount of revenue.
Yeah.
But even if we did a progressive tax rate, or what I like to call a stair step tax rate, because it makes people in rural Texas bristle a little bit less,
Yeah.
is okay, small businesses stay at that current tax rate, stay with these exemptions. Once you cross this amount of money in revenue, then we're going to tax it at 1%. Then after this revenue, 2%. I'm not even trying to push to a 5% tax rate. If we got to a 2.5% tax rate, I think that's billions that we would pull in, as well
Mhm.
as closing these tax loopholes and abatements and abuses that these companies are able to afford to do. We have even more money. I mean, we already have what, $30 billion in the rainy day fund just sitting there.
Yeah, which he didn't use to fund SNAP for our state, which other governors did, but that's a separate thing. Yeah.
Right, right. So Texas is the second largest economy in the world, and we built it by enticing businesses to come here and exploit us. That has been the
Yeah.
Greg Abbott method. Please come here and exploit my people. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no weaning off of the enticing benefits to come here, right? So say we say, hey, 0% tax your first year, then it stair step increases, by 0.5% each year after that, right? None of that. No, they just get to keep all the incentives that entice them to come here. And then we are building the infrastructure to build their electrical lines, to build the water. I mean, that $40 billion investment from Google in Texas for data centers,
Oh gosh, that's that's another can of worms, isn't it?
it's very concerning because we already are stretched thin because we just refuse to invest in ourselves. Greg Abbott is only
Yeah.
interested in investing in companies, not the people of Texas. And it shows.
Yeah. Well, he has he's funded by what's that guy's name? Jeff Yass, who
Yep.
is the anti-school choice or no,
Mhm.
no, I'm sorry, other way around. He is very pro school choice, very anti-public school. Jeff,
Yeah.
yeah. School
Yeah. So
choice,
he's
yeah.
pro school choice, that I can create the private school as a choice. And then I'm going to slowly take public school as a choice. And then I'm still pro choice, but there's only one choice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's the
And
creative language they use to hide what they're doing, but also indicate to the people that would support it that that is what they're doing. It's a
yeah.
dog whistle.
And even Republicans like I know Dade Phelan had introduced the bill to cap government. I forgot which House bill it is, but to cap donations from out
Mm,
of state donors
hmm
as a direct result of that, because Dade Phelan is a Republican, but not a MAGA Republican, and was not like, I mean, he's very pro public school. Um,
hmm
and even though his kids go to private school, I actually taught at the private school where his kids go for a while, and
Yeah.
or his relatives go, and yeah, like, but he's very pro public school. So that's another like that you can't be a non MAGA Republican in Texas right now. Even like look at John Cornyn, uh,
Yeah.
Tim Paxton trying to take him on. You know,
Yeah. I mean,
but
yeah. And
they're they're bought by these. I'm like, why does this guy from Pennsylvania get to decide? What
so this
happens
is
exactly?
where we can really limit the impact of Citizens United in the state of Texas. Citizens United is only for the federal level. It does not regulate state level. Which
Okay,
means, as it stands right now, and as we've seen with Greg Abbott, Elon Musk can walk up to me, write me a check for $1 million from him directly to my campaign directly. And that is entirely legal for me to accept.
wow,
There are
and
no campaign contribution limits from individuals. Technically, corporations are banned from making campaign contributions, but they can sidestep that real easy if they just start a PAC.
yeah, yeah, and so then that. leaves. Yeah, then we're going into Bernie Sanders' new book about oligarchy. I haven't read it yet, but I watched his podcast with Trevor Noah. It's like I feel like there's so many issues in politics, but you find that they're all connected because
Yeah.
we've been like connecting all of these things. We've talked about like 5, 6 different issues, but they all connect to the same root, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, we could come up with some form of like a corpus Texas civilis, our own like legal code and tax code rewrite that we just do all at once, right? Which we've seen before, right? So there's the easiest way, ironically, to fix the constitutional amendments that we have passed is to pass more constitutional amendments, not to try and repeal the ones that exist, right? So in theory, we could write a mega constitutional amendment that is almost like a constitutional convention level rewrite of the state
one big
constitution.
beautiful
You
amendment.
can do one big beautiful amendment. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can fix so many different things. But you got to get the people to vote for that, right? And that's one of the other things that I really want to do is I'm tired of the state legislature writing things out and then presenting it to us for a vote. I would like to have direct to ballot initiatives. I would like to see get enough petition signatures, write your draft, and then we all vote on it. The
Mhm.
legislature has no ability to influence or rewrite pieces of that, right?
Is that like what
Uh,
California did with Prop 50? They got to vote on their
yeah,
district.
and actually, what Utah did,
Mhm.
Utah banned gerrymandering about 5 years ago as a result of the direct ballot initiative, and then the state
Utah. All right, good
legislature,
job, Utah.
which is why their redistricting thing was such a big deal because the people had banned it. But
Mhm.
during COVID, the state legislature quietly repealed the ban.
They always quietly,
hmm
whenever everybody's dealing with something else. Yeah,
hmm And so that was why there was so much of a controversy in Utah, is because the average voter was like, I thought we were done with this. I thought we said no more. Why are
yeah,
we now doing it again? And why ultimately their Supreme Court had to get involved and went, and then of course now the Republican lead of GOP in Utah is saying like this is a gross abuse of power, blah 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 blah. People didn't get to vote on this, blah, blah, blah. And the Democrat that was on the Supreme Court that was ruling against them just went, no, you overturned the will of the people
yeah,
already by repealing a law they voted directly into the books. You don't get to tell me that I'm not representing the voices of the people when you directly have been heeding
yeah.
that voice this entire time.
Every
So
accusation is a confession. I feel like I say that every day when I talk about uh, MAGA Texans or MAGA federal.
yeah, yeah.
um,
So
so,
there's no, go ahead.
oh, I was no, no, you can go on. I was gonna, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean even with like we were saying, they're all interconnected. I mean, and before I forget, I do want to bring attention to I am was made aware of ICE in League City.
Oh
They
God,
picked up an individual and just left his car parked at a gas station. His family has no idea where he is.
oh my
Uh,
God.
so, if anybody has any insight or any resources or anything for how to find these people, how to get them the help they need, and how to support their families through that, I'm trying to put together a list to help out the family that genuinely has no idea where her husband is or their
The
father is.
breadwinner. Yeah,
Yeah. And he is, not that it matters to them, he is entirely legal in the state and the
yeah.
US. So,
That they're just indiscriminately just figure it out later, like bounty hunters. So,
yeah.
for anybody that does in the comments that doesn't know, League City is over by where like NASA is, right outside Houston. So I know for me, I live in the Beaumont area, and I have 6 kids between the ages of 15 and 8 months, and like we used to go on trips, day trips all the time to like the zoo and Herman Park. I'm really uncomfortable even going because I know that I probably won't be targeted, but I don't know if I would be able to keep my mouth shut and I just don't want to put my kids in a situation where they're going to see like ICE people tearing through Herman Park or, like
Yeah.
it's just,
Well, yeah. And that's where, I'm out. As it stands right now, I believe Houston DSA is out at Herman Park right now doing canvassing. They're out every weekend at Herman Park. They go around to the local businesses. They go around to where the day laborers tend to congregate and are giving them know your rights cards, giving them even
mhm.
whistles
Oh,
of
that's
like
good.
all of that stuff in Spanish and English to make sure that everybody understands. So Houston DSA is doing a really good job, at
Now,
least
DSA stands for,
Democratic Socialists of America. So that's the
oh,
group
okay, okay.
that backed Zora on as well. So they have
Yes.
chapters all across the nation. So Houston DSA is definitely out there. They have a lot of resources, and I've been out there with them a couple times, and hopefully, by being more aware, we can at least decrease the impact so that we can focus more resources on fewer people being kidnapped.
Yeah, being
Really,
kidnapped. Yeah.
um,
Um,
so.
that's
uh,
horrifying. So, now, what do we know about this man in Leak City for anybody? So
I know his name is Martin, and that's about as far as I've had. This was literally right before we went live. I was
oh,
on
wow.
Threads, and someone was saying, "Hey, he worked on my farm. Like he's a family friend. I'm a former NASA engineer, and he's just gone. Does anybody know any resources to help find him?" So what I have found so far is a group called Freedom for Immigrants,
Mhm.
which is an immigrant-led resource group that provides phone numbers, emails, contact information to find where your loved one may be in ICE detention, figure out when their court date is set, and figure out how to get them an attorney, even for free, to help fight some of that stuff there too. So but I'm still collecting resources because finding local support is a little bit more effective than national support. Since national, like look at the ACLU, right?
Mhm.
You reach out to them and say, "Hey, this thing happened," and they say, "Hey, we have a 6 to 9 month case backlog. Like, can you
Yeah,
wait that long?" Right? So, not to knock the ACLU, like they are running around as much as
they're
they can,
busy.
but that's the
Yeah.
reality, right? Is that at this point, in my opinion, we've realized that waiting on national organizations to help and save us is unrealistic because they are already overworked and stretched thin and overburdened. So we need to start building local community groups that can respond much faster and can be available to help in these instances. And that's what Houston DSA is trying to do, and a couple other local organizations are trying to do. But
Oh,
I just
good.
wanted to mention that before I forgot, just in case
Yes,
anybody
thank
knew
you.
any other resources that may be available to
And
him
Laura
and his
said,
family.
Laura saying you'll share this when you're done. One thing that I've learned about Substack, I learned this when I was on Cat's Live, is that it will, probably about an hour after we're done, it will like auto populate different clips that,
Hmm.
like, I guess it picked up on the different topics we talked about. So there'll probably be one that auto populates us specifically talking about this particular issue. And so I'll make sure to post all these also on TikTok and Instagram, where I have more followers on those platforms than on Substack currently. So, um, but what the last thing I just wanted to kind of talk about, and just ask, like, basically, as far as flipping Texas blue, because that's our goal for the next 352 days. I have a countdown. What should we be doing right now? Like, should we be registering voters? Should we be talking to people? What should we be doing?
Yeah, so registering voters is critical. I think, but we all know that there are a lot of registered voters that typically would vote blue. So the thing
Mhm.
is, we need to keep registering people, right? Because it's a way to build momentum, get people excited, get them involved. But we also need to go out to these voters who may not have voted but have registered, right? We have that data to see which elections someone has voted in, not how they voted, but just which ones they have voted in. And we
Mhm.
need to start going out to, the neighborhoods and the groups of people that are registered but maybe don't vote very often, and figure
Yeah.
out, why not? What would make you feel heard, right? How can I adjust my platform to involve your voice in that? And that's what I've been doing, kind of going out into the rural areas of Brazoria County, like Alvin and Manville and Angleton, of just um, by and large, even in these very rural towns, people just want to feel heard.
Yeah.
And when I go out there, I've never heard someone ask me about my stance on trans rights. It has
Mhm.
only been, I can't afford food. The property taxes are getting way too high. And I'm with the development coming in out here. I'm about to get priced out of my home that I have lived in for 50 years. And I don't know
Yeah.
what to do about it. Right. Or healthcare. I had a veteran I was talking to a couple weeks ago that got a letter from um, Texas Medicare. He just had open heart surgery. And they said that because his medication is as expensive as it is, which is about $7,000 for a month's dose, they're not going to be able to continue covering that. He just
That's
had open heart surgery and he's a veteran.
And it's
What?
7,000. Like, why? That doesn't even make
Why?
sense. Like, where do they get these numbers? It doesn't make any sense at all. Um, so I had a thought, but I lost it. But Yeah, that's insane.
So,
Oh,
but
okay, I remember what I was gonna say.
oh yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
The block walking, like you mentioned, I was this is what my brain glitched. I think that that is a good step toward breaking the algorithm. I think that a lot of people are less likely to want to block walk, but I think it's in 2025, it's more essential than ever to actually be in person because like I feel like sometimes I'm like, how do you not know about this? But this like for example, people not realizing that they're losing their SNAP benefits because they didn't know the government was shut down. But not everybody's paying attention. Not everybody's algorithm. I feel like the algorithm is like the Berlin Wall of our
Yes.
generation
Oh,
because like they're
absolutely.
living in another reality and we have to
Absolutely.
break.
Yeah.
We have,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually what I've seen. It's been a big point of my campaign, right? Of I have been using social media more for awareness and letting people know the events that I have that are in person, right? I
Mhm.
can have an argument with a MAGA supporter online all day and it's not going to go anywhere. If I have
Yeah.
a discussion with a MAGA supporter in person, it tends to go places because it's a lot harder to just ignore me and leave and just not say anything, right? I
Mhm.
found that in person, they're much more willing to talk about things, right? And
Yeah.
again, it goes
It's
back to
humanizing.
they're talking about affordability. They're talking about not being able to buy a car to go to the job that they need that will pay enough for them to be able to afford the new high property taxes. Like it's this cyclical death spiral the state of Texas has put us in, and seems to have zero indication about any sort of an end to it, but from Republicans in the state. They think this is the way that it should be. And I don't understand how you get to that place because, like I said, right, we have constitutionally banned almost every other tax revenue stream outside of property taxes and sales tax, which require people to stay in the state. And yet you're
Yeah.
actively driving people out of the state. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make
So,
sense. Yeah. But they respond to the mega Republicans like Abbott, they respond to their donors, out of
yeah,
state donors, not to
yeah,
this
yeah,
Texans. So
yeah.
we need to put people in office like you who are for the people of Texas, the people of the state and what they actually care about. Like
Yeah, yeah.
no
And
one
I
can,
think if
yeah.
we're going to use social media, right, it should be to amplify the events, right? So, like, if I post that I'm having a town hall, the best use of it would be not arguing with people in the comments that are talking about they don't like my platform or whatever, but just sharing it far and
Mhm.
wide and getting the awareness out, right? Let's use social media as a tool again versus
Yeah.
being used by social media and being angry
Yeah.
in the comments and forget what you originally came to that post to do, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to be angry. Um,
Yeah.
and those are the main things that I want to do with the campaign. First of all, is educate people on their rights and how to execute them, so that when I'm elected, because that's the other thing is I'm so tired of the narrative of if you just elect me, we've saved democracy, and then they do nothing,
Yeah.
right? Like our establishment Democrats do nothing, or
Mhm.
they're like, yeah, I'll fight for this thing, and then they get a nice little campaign contribution from a lobbyist, and suddenly it's not feasible to do that anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I-
Suddenly. Yeah. And I think feel like with Mom Dami in New York, that's where we were. Like that's what we're seeing. Like, people are wanting, you know. So that's the direction we're moving in. That's why we need to like go further left, that further progressive, and not like when we keep trying to meet them in the middle. Well, eventually we're just Republicans. I mean, they're crazy, but we're just
Right,
basically
right,
Republicans.
right. My platform pre 9/11 was center left.
Yeah,
That's it. Center left. That's it.
and yeah, now they're
And
like
now I'm
radical
considered a radical communist or socialist now. Like, no,
for wanting
no.
infrastructure.
And that's why I am so frustrated at a lot of Democrats, especially establishment Democrats, saying we need to moderate. No, 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 no. Moderation just pulls us back to mid right instead of far right.
Yeah. Yeah, we keep meeting them further right than yeah.
And I'm tired of it. We've been getting marched further and further down, and now they're saying, "Oh, to come back, we just have to take baby steps." We don't have time for that.
No, no, we don't have time for that, and I think a lot of people are waking up to that. So, yeah, I think the midterms, or not the midterms, but the last election that
The
we just
last,
had
yes,
showed that, and I think we're gonna see it even more in the midterms, and that's why I think that Texas is perfectly positioned right now to go blue. And I'm not saying like I'm using the terms, maybe I'm manifesting, but I'm using the terms when we go blue, when we take back this state from because they've had 30 years, and
yeah,
time's up. Time's up.
yeah, yeah. Well, and not to put a damper on things, but that's also part of why I'm running. I am getting no support from the local party because
Oh
it's a
wow.
contested primary. However, the PACs are still backing, from what I understand right now, the PACs are still backing my opponent. I want to be clear. I have no issues with my opponent. I think she's a very wonderful woman. She's a very
Yeah.
great story. I like her policies. I'm running mostly because I didn't like that she didn't detail the policies, right? There's one thing to say, like, raise minimum wage $15 an hour. Yeah, I agree. We should do that. But if you're running, you should probably detail how to do that. How are you going to do that protecting small businesses? Are you going to do a stair-stepped increase over time with subsidies to offset that? Those kinds of things is part of where I was like, you're great, but this is where, this is just my area of expertise is finding,
Mhm.
reviewing our processes, finding the waste in it and removing that. And that's where I'm going to be doing these things.
Mm.
Um,
Do
Steve,
you mind me asking who is
my
the
opponent
opponent?
is Shannon Dicely in the primary. So the big thing with progressives, and we're seeing it nationally, is almost all of us have some sort of opponent in the primary. Most of us are not running unopposed. So if we really want to get progressives through, it will
Um,
have to be, no, you're good. If we want to get progressives through and elected, it will have to be backing them in the primary. Like I have a block walk in 30 minutes that I need to go run to, right? But it's volunteering for the events if you don't, if it in any way. And as much as I know everybody is struggling, donating even $2 or $3 to the campaigns, right? Because as it stands right now, my average contribution is about $30 a person, and I have about 20 different contributions, and I have not raised enough money to even be on the ballot just yet. So in these small races that have, I say small, this is a very
mhm.
large race, but
Yeah.
under the radar race that most people don't know about or are aware about. If you want to get progressive representation, we need money and we need volunteers, just like every other campaign. But
Yeah.
since I need to get ready to head out to that block walk, I just wanted to kind of make that
Oh yeah,
final
same. I
plug
need to
of
go
like,
grocery. I go grocery shopping on Sunday morning. So okay,
um,
last thing. Well, finish what you're saying, but then after that, can you tell us everybody where they can go to like your website? So yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So the big thing, right, is, and we saw this with Taylor Remitt, is progressives don't need to raise a lot of money to make that dollar stretch. I mean, Taylor raised what, 120 grand, and his opponents raised $5 million combined, and he still got
Wow.
48% of the vote. So what we're seeing is that even a little bit in a progressive campaign can go a really long way because I'm not spending it on frivolous events, big, theaters to like
Galas.
host big
Yeah.
galas. Yeah. No, I'm spending it on making sure that my volunteers have water and a snack while we're walking down the block getting signatures to be on the ballot. Those
Hmm.
kinds of things. And that's really where you're going to see the difference in these progressive campaigns is that, yes, we still need money. We need it desperately, especially since we're not getting anything from the state party, state PACs, local parties. They all keep giving the line of we're not going to put our thumb on the scales in the primary, even though they have and will continue to do so
Yeah.
um,
So how
against
many you need
your progressive
signatures,
candidates.
correct? You
Yes,
said.
yes. So right now, I have about 200 signatures. You need 500 to be on the ballot. However, my opponent can challenge those signatures, and they usually get rid of about 20% of those signatures. So to be safe, I'm trying to get 1,000 signatures so that if they whittle me down, even if they take half of them, I still have the
Yeah.
500
You still have
signatures to be
enough.
on the ballot.
And where can people find you to get
Yeah,
those signatures?
yeah. So the block books that we have are all on my website through Mobilize. You can sign up, share it, do all of that stuff. The website is Cameron for Texas TX, not full Texas, Cameron for Texas Senate.com. That has the Act Blue link. It has the platform. It has some of the previous events I've spoken at, as well as all the upcoming events that we have coming here soon. So if you'd like to donate or get involved with the campaign, that would be the best place to go find me.
Awesome. And when I make these videos, I'll put that up text on the screen too. So it'll be nice and easy for everybody. So yeah, well, thank you for doing this and for spending your Sunday here. I think this is a really productive use of our time. So
Oh yeah,
um,
absolutely.
and
Thank
yeah,
you for
I'm
having me. I really
excited.
appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, y'all have a great Sunday and
Yeah.
we'll see you next time. Thanks,
Yeah.
Cameron.
Thanks everyone for coming out.
Yeah,
Bye, y'all.
bye.